Although we're at the end of 2024, these amps are expected early 2025, the new LX series from KICKER. This is what I call a first look video. We'll unbox it, talk about what it comes with, what are the features, what are the specifications. Then of course we're going to throw it on the amp dyno and find out how much power it puts out. Stay tuned. First thing we see here in the box is a bag which has the high level adapter, has some mounting screws, as well as one of Alan's keys. He only gave us one. There's a good reason for that. We also have a power chart here. We have a remote base cable here, Cat 5 style connections with plenty of length to go from the front to the back of your vehicle. And we also have the LX series bass remote, which is included, that Cat 5 style connector on the back. We will cover this in a future video because there's a lot to talk about here with the bass remote and the control center, which you will see coming up shortly. There's a couple mounting screws there for the bass remote. We have certified power output for the 51 LX1200.5 of 1612 watts. We have a quick start guide there on the back as well as QR code. And here we have the LXCC, which is the control center for the LX series amplifiers. I will leave a link in the video description to Dean over at 5 Star Car Stereo. He gave a very detailed video about this, how it's used for your amplifier. Very good. So we're going to send you over to him. I'm going to take a look at it in the second part of this video. I won't be really showing it off much more today, but it is very cool. And last but not least, in the box, we have the LX1200.5 5-channel amplifier. And please do not eat the silica gel. Here's a better look at the amplifier. You will see it does have some panels, which we'll get to in a minute. As far as dimensions, 12.6 inches on the long side, 8.4 inches for the width, 2.4 inches for the height. Millimeter equivalents are there as well. These amplifiers employ two different removable panels, one of them for your inputs, adjustments, etc. The other one on the top of the amplifier, which is just in front of the RGB LEDs, allows you to flip the panel around if you want the KICKER logo to show the opposite way. Everything is held down via magnets. That's what I'm talking about. Very nice. And here's a look of the amplifier and all the settings and all the different adjustments. Let's talk about each one individually. Get into the details. Here on the left side amplifier near the bottom, you'll see the power and protect LED. We'll show that when we power it up. Also the high level inputs from that harness that we showed earlier we unboxed. On the left side, we have the sub output. It does accept up to 8 gauge wiring. Then we have 0 gauge for power and ground and about 12 gauge for the remote. As we move down to the right, we'll see the gain for amp 1 and amp 2. That's channels 1 through 4. They're also backlit. We'll talk about that later. Right in the center of the amp, we have 6 RCA inputs. This is a 5-channel amplifier, but you don't have to use all 6 thanks to the fader button. This allows you to switch 2 or 4 channels of input. In addition, there's a sub input button, and the cheat here is if you just want to use 2 channels input, leave that depressed and leave the other one for the fader depressed as well. Further down, we have the jack for the controller and the remote bass knob. Also at the top here, we have the RGB LEDs, switch between colors, brightness, and reset. Then we have the gain control for the subwoofer channel. Again, same as the others, it gain matches and it's backlit to help you set your gains. There's a button for DC offset. This is for using high-level inputs. And then on the right, we have the 4 outputs here for channels 1 through 4. Amplifier is bridgeable as well. Here are the highlights of a lot of the features. My favorite are the thermal management, where the amplifier will down its power when needed to help cool down the amp. Also the parametric bass EQ, the remote control center, super slick. Again, we'll dive into that deeper in the future. As far as ratings, 4 ohm stereo 125x4, 2 ohm stereo 175x4, 4 ohms bridge on the 4-channel 350x2, the sub-channel 300x1 at 4 ohms, 550x1 at 2 ohms, and 700x1 at 1 ohm. Here we have the LX1200.5 wired up on the bench. You can see the power LED is going to come on. It comes on red first. After about 4 seconds or so, it turns green. And there you go. RGB LEDs are on the top of the amp. If we touch the button here, we can cycle through the 11 different options that you have for colors. Also shown here, the flute clamp, where we show the idle current of this amplifier is around 2.8 amps. Next up, we'll fire up the 81 amplifier dyno so we can test the power output of this LX series 5-channel amp. If you haven't seen these tests before, On the left, the power output in watts. In the middle, the ohm load. On the right, the voltage of the dyno. Will also have the clamp, but it's difficult to calculate efficiencies on a 5-channel because we're not able to measure all the channels at once. Again, rated here at 4 ohms, 125/4. This is what we're going to test first. We do have all the channels hooked up on the amplifier at 4 ohms, including the sub-channels here. So they're all loaded via resistors or by the dyno, which has resistors built in as well. So let's start off with the 4 ohm test on the 4-channel side. And let's see what we get here. Certified, it is rated 125/4 at 14.4. We're using a 1 kilohertz track. And we get 163, 162, so an average of about 162 at 14.46. Very nice. Dynamic power sends a pulse tone of 1 kilohertz into the amplifier. And here you can see 160, about 167 average times 4 at 14.5 volts. Next up, let's try 4-channel mode at 2 ohms. It's rated 175/4. We have the sub-channel loaded as well at 4 ohms. Certified test up to 1% distortion. Can we get that 175? Oh yes, easily. About 260 watts by 4 at 14.36. We'll try the dynamic test here. Again, sending the pulse tone. And look at this, we're creeping up on 300 and we got over 300. Is it going to go up anymore? Yes, 308 and 318 right at 14.5 volts. Nice. Now we're going to bridge channels 1 through 4 by using left positive, right negative of each channel. And we're showing it here. I like the way these connections work. And that single key that Alan left us works with the speaker outputs as well as the power inputs. 4 ohms bridge is rated 350/2. Let's try it out here on the dyno at 1 kilohertz. Again, 4 channels bridged down to 2. Sub-channel is still loaded at 4 ohms as well. And check this out. It's rated 350/2. We're getting 536 watts times 2 average, certified to 1% distortion. That is crazy. Dynamically, look at this. We're creeping up on 600 and we're getting it right at 600 watts by 2 at 14.5 volts. Man, they really underrated this thing. Now let's move on to the sub-channel. It's rated 300 watts at 4 ohms. Once again, we do have all the channels loaded. The sub-channels here on the very left going to the dyno, and the terminals there on the right are all going to resistors. We're loading all channels at 4 ohms. It's rated 300 watts here on the sub-channel. Let's send the 40 hertz track. Try certified up to 1% distortion. Can we get to 300? Yep, 350 at 14.5. And I know already some of you are saying, well, 14.5 isn't 14.4. Well, we redid the test. We actually tested this amp several times. Let's try it again at 14.4, and there you go. 350 watts on the sub-channel at 14.4. It's rated 300, so it does its rated power plus some. Uncertified takes us up to the clipping point. We didn't show that on the 4-channel side, and you'll see why when we show the results. But here we go. And a little bit more, 353, 14.46. Let's reset the dyno here for the dynamic track. And we're going to use the 40 hertz pulse tone here, simulating kind of like a kick drum. And not a whole lot different than the other test. 355, 356, 14.46. Now let's reset the dyno here for 2 ohms on the sub channel, rated 550. We have all the other channels loaded at 4 ohms via resistors. Certified test up to 1% distortion. Easily get 550, 621, right at 14.4 volts. Reset it here for the uncertified test up to clipping. Let's see what we get. 40 hertz track, ramping it up. Can we get more than 600? Oh yes. 666. Oh man, we ain't got no room for the devil around here.
Step up! This is not a Mickey Mouse program!
All right, let's exercise the 666 demons and move on to the dynamic test. Send the pulse tone here, 40 hertz, into the amplifier. And there you can see a little bit more, 668, 14.48. All right, up to this point, it's done exceedingly well. Let's move to the 1 ohm test on the sub channel, rated 700 watts at 14.4. All the other channels are loaded at 4 ohms. Certified, here we go. Can we get it? Oh yes, 893 at 14.44, almost 900 watts. Wow, let's drop that voltage just a little bit. See what we get with less than 14.4. There you go, 855 at 14.3. So this amp will probably do 700 watts at like 13 volts. But anyway, let's move on to the uncertified test up to clipping. See what we get here. Can we bust 900? Oh yeah, we can bust 1090 at 14.4. Yo. All right, what about dynamically? Since we busted 1000 uncertified, oh yes, busting 1100. 1160 at 14.42. Oh, 1174 jumped up right there at the end. And here we have the results. Please don't use this screenshot because your mama said she'll smack you, make people watch the video. That's why I make these. Exceeded all of its ratings here easily. Also on the sub channel as well, near 900 watts at 1 ohm where it's rated 700s. This amp definitely puts out its rated power plus some. Now I know you guys want to see the internals of this LX Series 5 channel amp, and I will show it to you, but unfortunately it won't be today. The reason for that is I want to do a follow-up video where I talk about the pricing because we don't know that yet, the release date. I also want to show you guys how it sounds with speakers, talk more about the control center and the remote control, things like that, which I'm not going to cover today because we did the amp dyno test and we showed you the rest of what's going on with this amp. But so far, first impressions, I'm very impressed with this amplifier from as far as the looks, the aesthetics, all the different options, all the different features that it has. Having this control center so you don't have to have tiny adjustments on the amp for the crossovers, for the subsonic filter, for all the tight adjustments that we can do them through this control center, which is very nice and something that I think other manufacturers should probably think about in the future. The other thing I can't stress enough is these little panels, like the top panel also and the one on the front. When you have panels like this on most amplifiers, you have tiny screws that just tend to get lost. Well, this is 2024 and into 2025. We do have these things called magnets, and this is so smart that KICKER did this with this amp because they're super strong now, these neodymium magnets. There's no reason not to use these for panels now. And once you put the panels on this amp, look how clean it looks. Super clean. I want to thank you guys for watching my first look here of the LX1200.5 from KICKER. Make sure you smash that thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Join me at patreon.com/oldschoolstereo if you want early access. And make sure you stick around till after the credits here because we're going to show some additional tests. That's right. Thanks as always for watching. Until next time, Big D, I'm out of here.
40,000 watts? 40,000 at 0 ohm. 0.
Okay, so we're not going down to 0, but let's try 0.8 certified here on the sub channel of the LX1200.5. 40 hertz is our track. Let's see what we get. 877, 14.3. So not a whole lot different than the 1 ohm track, but it does support it here without an issue. Dynamically, check this out. Over 1300 watts. 1342 at 14.3. Oops, 1355 jumped up right there at the end. 14.31. Now I'm sure you're wondering, what about 0.67? What about half an ohm? Well, we do have those tests, but we're going to show you those on the follow-up video to see what happens, see if the amp goes up in smoke, to see if it handles it, see if it goes into protect. Again, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. When that video goes live, you will know. Till next time, Big D, I'm out.